Good evening, everybody. Welcome to meeting the Audit Committee on Wednesday, 26th of November 2025. Welcome to those in the room. We've got a full house on screen as well. We've got Councillor Sankey, Andy O'Brien, the Chief Executive, and Councillor Hudson. Apologies, Councillors, my mic wasn't turned on, so I couldn't respond, but I hope your wife's better soon. May I remind everybody present, this meeting will be broadcast live via YouTube, and the recording will be archived for future viewing. Could all councillors and officers ensure that when they do speak, they switch their microphones on, and when they finish speaking, switch their microphones off. This is extremely important for the live stream to ensure the cameras be focused on the person who's speaking. Item number 1, apologies for absence. Could we receive any apologies, please?
Thank you, Chair. We've received apologies from Councillor Beach.
Thank you. Item 2, declarations of interest, if any. Do any councillors have any declarations of interest to declare on the items under discussion at tonight's meeting? That's a no. Thank you. Item 3, urgent business under Rule 12. I'm not aware of any urgent business for discussion tonight. Thank you. Item 4, questions from the public. We haven't received any questions from the public. Item 5, questions from members of the committee. We've not received any questions from members of the committee. Item 6, public minutes of the previous meeting on 24th September 2025. Any comment on those minutes? In that case, I propose we accept those minutes. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Slater, thank you. We'll now go to the votes. All those in favour? Against? Abstentions? Abstention, Councillor Hudson. I think that was, yeah.
Yeah, the only reason we're abstaining, Chairman, is because we're not live in the town hall. Yeah. But I do agree with the minutes. It's just I have to abstain because I'm not there.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Hudson.
Sorry, Chair, I voted yes as I was actually there, so I wasn't quite sure which the actual proper protocol is, but I think I'm the same as Councillor Hudson.
Thank you, Councillor Sankey. We'll leave that with Emily to work out. Thank you all. So the vote's carried. Item 7, internal audit progress report. I now invite Tracy Ruby from Free Touch Assurance to provide an update.
Thank you, Chair. I'll take the report as read, if I may. And since the last audit committee, we've issued 3 reports to reporting stage as detailed on page 2. We've agreed 2 terms of reference as detailed, and since the papers were issued, we've also agreed the terms of reference in respect of mandatory training. Action tracking continues to progress and is on par with the last report in terms of position. Good progress continues to be made with the audits, and we're working with council officers around the timing of reviews with regards to system upgrades and sort of having downtime. So we're factoring that in. Appendix B provides more information on the taxi licensing advisory report that's been agreed. Appendix C provides more information on the terms of reference agreed. And Appendix D provides information on the KPIs. Members will note there were some delays in agreeing the terms of reference, and that's why that KPI is slightly lower than usual. But that's due to annual leave and having consultation with other council officers, so we're not unduly worried about that position. And Appendix E provides the action tracking position. And I'll pause there to take any questions.
Thanks, Ruby. Over to colleagues. Any questions? Councillor Sankey.
Thank you, Chair. I know you haven't completed the audit yet, but I noticed you started it. Is there any areas of concern regarding the cybersecurity one that you underway? Thank you, Chair.
We're still progressing the field work with that one, Councillor Sankey. So I've spoken to the auditor, and they're still liaising with council officers to. Information has been received and queries have been raised, so we're just working through that and going through our process.
Thank you, Ruby.
So does that mean there's nothing that you particularly highlighted that you were concerned about? Thank you, Chair.
We haven't completed all of the field work for me to be able to comment on that, Councillor Sankey.
So I think.
Okay, thank you very much.
Obviously, when the audit's complete, we'll have an audit finding.
Until we've concluded our testing in that area, I won't be making any comment on.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions from councillors? Okay, obviously we can come back. We've got the private item on the action tracker, so we can pick that up there if we need to. Thank you both. Item 8, we're going to the quarterly reporting of write-offs for 25-26. I invite Lloyd as Chief Finance Officer to present the report.
Thank you, Chair. So the report provides Audit Committee with an update on any write-offs that were approved during Q2 of the current financial year, in line with the requirements of the Constitution. As set out in the report, there was only one write-off during the quarter, which was a small amount of money, which was historic in nature, dating back to 2007, and the report sets out the reason for that write-off. There will be other reports of any further write-offs brought to Audit Committee on a quarterly basis going forward. And I'll pause at that point for any questions from committee.
Thank you, Lloyd. Any questions on that item? No. Quite clear, very small amount. So, yeah, makes sense. Thank you. Item 9, the mid-year Treasury Management Report for 2025-2026, and hand over to Dan Binks to present the report as Chief Accountant.
Thank you, Chair. This report provides a mid-year update against the approved Treasury Management Strategy and is the second report in a series of 3 required annually on Treasury Management presented to Audit Committee each year, in addition to which reports are also provided to Committee at Q1 and Q3. Section 3 of the report and Annex 3 cover an economic update and reflects the economic landscape of inflation remaining stable compared to recent years, but still above the 2% Bank of England target, and a gradual reduction in interest rates in the first 2 quarters of the year. There is also a forecast of future interest rates provided by our Treasury Management advisors at Annex 4 of the report. Section 4 outlines the Council's Treasury Management priorities, being the security of our capital, followed by liquidity and then yield. This is commensurate with the Code of Practice and government guidelines. Investments stood at £50.46 million at the end of September 2025, with a full breakdown provided at Annex 2. These include a mixture of fixed deposits, certificates of deposit and call accounts with UK banks and highly rated foreign banks, as well as UK government deposits, Treasury bills and AAA rated money market funds. Section 5 demonstrates positive investment performance for the first half of the year, with an average yield of over the period of 4.4%, with investment returns continuing to perform strongly, largely due to interest rates remaining higher for longer than forecast at budget setting. Section 6 deals with borrowing. It highlights the capital financing requirement, which is our underlying needs to borrow for 2025-26, has increased from an estimated £13.109 million as reported in the Treasury Management Strategy Statement to Council in February 2025 to a forecast of £18.669 million at mid-year. This change is largely a result of the introduction of the right of use assets in line with the implementation of the new IFRS 16 accounting standard. This therefore relates to existing leases held by the Council and is therefore a result of a change in accounting standards rather than any direct action by the Council itself. The Council's external debt as at the 30th of September was £3.81 million, with no new borrowing undertaken as at Q2. This covers the key points of the report. The recommendation at section 15 of the covering report is for the committee to approve the report as set out in Appendix A for forwarding to full Council. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Dan. Any questions? No? Okay. Do we need to take a vote on that if it's going to full Council? Yeah, okay. So I propose that we accept the report. Is that the recommendation? Yeah. Propose that we accept. Have a seconder. Councillor Crooks was first. All those in favour? Okay. Sorry, Steve. Councillor Sankey, sorry.
Do I abstain? Say.
Yeah.
We have to abstain.
Yeah, so
but I agree.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you both. Okay. In that case, carried, and that passes to full Council in December. Sorry, Councillor Hadley.
Can I just clarify? If people are on Zoom, isn't that automatically are not allowed to vote anyway because they're on Zoom? Can I just
I'll defer to Emily.
So if they're on Teams, they have to abstain. The vote is only classed as counted as they're in the room.
Okay. Thank you both. So move on to item 10, the annual governance statement for 24-25. I should say we've got the Chief Executive with us tonight. You may remember there was a recommendation in the previous audit that the Chief Executive comes to a meeting of the Audit Committee, and when we set the work plan, we thought the AGS was the best place for Andy to be present. That's why we've got Andy with us tonight on annual leave. So appreciate that. So I hand over to Dan again to present the report on the annual governance statement.
Thank you, Chair. The SIP for the Solus framework delivering good governance in local governments 2016 requires local authorities to publish an annual governance statement. Its key aim is to set out the governance framework and internal controls to ensure public money is safeguarded and properly accounted for, resources are used economically, efficiently and effectively, and that council business is conducted in accordance with the relevant laws and regulations. This is a backwards-looking report that covers the period in which the most recent statement of accounts have been produced. This work has now been completed, and the annual governance statement confirms that arrangements for the management of the authority's affairs and proper management of risk are in place, and there continue to be no significant governance issues identified in relation to 2024-25. As stated by the Chair, in line with the recommendation in the Auditor's Annual Report for 2024, the Chief Executive has attended Audit Committee for this item as a signatory of the Annual Governance Statement. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Dan. Any questions from councillors? Councillor Hudson.
Yeah, it's not a question. It's to thank the officers for the hard work that they do in the Staffordshire Council. I'm very happy with the way in which they conduct the business, and I'm quite happy, although I can't vote on it, to support the signing of the governance certificate.
Thank you, Councillor Hudson. Certainly second that. Councillor Krupski.
Sorry, I thought you were, sorry, apologies.
I was seconding what councillors I got you. Yeah, no problem. Any other questions? Okay, excellent. Do we need to vote on that, or are we just noting? Noting. Okay, in that case we're noting. And yeah, thank you again for, I've only ever been on one council, but we certainly seem to have good officers at this one, so thank you for all your work, as Councillor Hudson said. Excellent. Andy, were you wanting to depart at this point, or are you staying for the rest of the meeting?
Thank you, Chairman. I have a cold, but I'm going to hang on in there if I can.
Yeah, no problem. Great. Okay, going back to the agenda. We now get to item 11, which is the Audit Findings Report for 2024-2025 and the Management Letter Representation. So I'll hand over to Laura and Bethany from Assets to present that.
Thank you, Chair. So I will be presenting the Audit Findings Report for the 24-25 audit, walking through the report and highlighting some of the main areas of our findings. So we are in a position now where we have completed the audit subject to confirming one outstanding piece of information on pensions, and as a result we do anticipate issuing an unqualified opinion on the financial statements. We have identified 3 adjustments to the accounts which do impact on the total comprehensive income and expenditure for the year, but with a nil impact, on the general fund balance. I'll cover those later in the report. Just move on to page 5 of our audit findings report. So at the point we issued this report, we did have a number of areas that we were finalising our work. The majority of these have now been completed, so the only area that we do need to finalise is our pensions work. So we did receive pension fund assurances yesterday, I think it was, so we are just working through finalising that, and we have one query outstanding that we need to conclude on as a result of that. Moving on to our executive summary. So value for money work is covered within our auditor's annual report, which I will also be presenting a bit later on, but just to highlight that that work is fully completed and we haven't identified any significant weaknesses in the council's arrangements to secure value for money for 24-25. Moving on then to page 8, so we do set out some indicators as part of the work that we just wanted to highlight there has been a slight deterioration in some of those gradings. I know you'll be aware that the accounts were published late, and we did have a few delays in receiving some information at the start of the audit, but Alan Lloyd have been extremely responsive and very cooperative throughout the whole process, so that is appreciated. Moving on then to page 10, where we set out materiality that we worked with our audit. There haven't been any changes since we reported to you in our audit plan earlier in the year. So
is it red?
Oh, I think it's back. Yes, we do report to you any adjustments or unadjusted differences to the financial statements above what we call our trivial threshold, which for this year is £82,000. Moving on then to the key audit findings of our risk areas that we reported in our audit plan. So page 12 summarises the outcome of our work against each of those risk areas. We don't have any findings to report to you in relation to the management override of controls risk or the fraud in revenue recognition or fraud in expenditure recognition risk that we did actually revert. We have, however, got findings within the valuation of lands and buildings and the IFRS 16 risk that we identified, which I will talk through now. So if I just move on then to page 16 of our report, this sets out the work that we have done to address the risk of the valuation of land and buildings in the council's accounts. It's a highly material and judgmental area of the financial statements. We did identify as part of our work a prior period adjustment in relation to buildings based on their gross internal floor areas, which is effectively their measurements which drive the valuation of those buildings. So we did identify that there is an adjustment required to the prior period as a result of this. It is important to flag that this was identified really as a result of management acting on our prior year recommendation, which instigated the valuer to remeasure the buildings that are on the council's balance sheet. So positive that was actioned, but that did result in an adjustment to those figures at the 1st of April 2023 and the 31st of March 2024. So moving on to the next page, so the valuation of the pension fund liability. We haven't identified any issues or adjustments in relation to this, but that is subject to that one query we have outstanding. And then page 18 highlights the implementation of a new accounting standard in 24-25, which is called IFRS 16, which relates to right of use assets, so assets that the council have the right to use and hold on their balance sheet. We did identify that there was a risk around completeness of implementing this accounting standard, and we have found from our work that there were a number of assets that were initially missed in that disclosure. So they are detailed on page 18 with the corresponding adjustments on page 33. The subsequent pages I won't go through in detail as there's nothing particular I want to bring to your attention. The adjustments are highlighted in more detail on pages 32 to 34. So just to run through the remainder of the report, we do also need to report to you any unadjusted differences that management aren't proposing to adjust the financial statements for. So page 35 sets these out, and there are two of them. One again relates to the IFRS 16 right of use assets. When we were completing our work, we noted a difference between what the council had recognised on their balance sheet compared to what was in the valuation report from the council's valuer. So that hasn't been adjusted for, and that is reported as the 622k on page 35. And the reason that hasn't been adjusted for is because it isn't material to the financial statements. The second unadjusted difference that we've reported is in relation to some expenditure testing we've done on housing benefits. So this is a difference that isn't a true difference, but it is a projected difference based on an error that we found in our samples. So we're comfortable that the accounts aren't materially misstated. Page 36 sets out some misclassification and disclosure changes, which I won't run through in detail, but they have all been amended for in the financial statements. Page 39 sets out our value for money summary, which I have already touched on. And then our appendices set out a number of internal control recommendations. There aren't any significant control recommendations for 24-25, so I won't go through them in detail. We've also provided an update on the 23-24, so the prior year recommendations as to the progress that's been made, which you'll see a lot of those recommendations have been closed. So I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much. Very comprehensive piece of work, and I think on the whole really positive. I think the point about the valuation piece is kind of a nice audit loop of it being pointed out, management acting on it, that leading to an adjustment. So it's good case of good practice. Any questions on that? Councillor Sankey.
Yes, I'd like to echo your comments. A very comprehensive piece of work, and really good. I was interested, as you explained, the two items, the adjustments that weren't on page 36. Those adjustments, yeah, 35. Sorry. Sorry, show my ignorance. I mean, it says it's immaterial. Can you remind me on what the figure is from immaterial when we? Because I know there is a figure that we consider that isn't important in terms of it's below the classification of material change. Could you just remind me on what that figure is, please?
Yes. So the materiality that we're working to is 1.6 million, and that is set out on page 10 in a bit more detail.
Yeah, so this 1,600 is just a normal thing. Right, okay, thank you.
Thank you both. Thank you, Councillor Sankey. Any further questions? Sorry, Lloyd.
There was just one point that I wanted to make, Chair. So now that ASITs have taken committee through the draft audit findings report, you'll note that Bethany did set out that there is one query outstanding in terms of the pension fund. So with that in mind, when we've been in this position in previous years, when we get to the updated statement of accounts later on the agenda, we're not in a position to ask the Chair to sign those off, but what we would ask committee for is delegation to the Chair to sign off the accounts once we've had the final audit certification, subject to there being no further material items to bring to committee's attention. So we just wanted to capture that in the minutes now, and seeking that delegation to the Chair, which we have done in the last 2 years as well.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, of course. Everybody happy with that? Yeah, Councillor Hudson, do you want to come in?
Yeah, Lloyd, is this the usual county council issue?
I think we have seen a delay in receiving the assurances from the pension fund, which is, yes, you're quite right, Councillor Hudson, the issue we've seen in the last 2 years. But as the auditors have just set out, we have received those assurances, albeit it was only yesterday. There is just one query outstanding now. That information has been received. So it is the same issue, but those assurances have been provided, but only yesterday.
That's fine. I know we're not allowed to vote, Chairman, but I'm quite happy to delegate.
Okay, I think committee settled on that, so we'll take that as has been approved by committee. Thank you all. Any last questions on that item, or can we move on? Okay, thanks again, a really comprehensive piece of work, and again, well done to officers for getting us to that conclusion as well, and well done for grinding on the pension fund issue. I know it's always a long process every year, it seems. Okay, following on from that, we will have the auditor's annual report, item 12, end of 31st of March 2025, so back to assets for that item.
Thank you, Chair. So our auditor's annual report is a sort of higher level summary report of the audit findings report that I've just talked through to committee. It summarises the work that we've done as your external auditors during the year, so it will include sort of highlights and any recommendations as a result of that work. The sort of main component of this report is our value for money work, so you'll see that this report does include a detailed commentary on the 3 areas that we're required to look at for value for money, which is financial sustainability, governance, and improving economy, efficiency and effectiveness. So as I've already mentioned, we haven't identified any significant weaknesses in the Council's arrangements to secure value for money, which is really positive. We have made 2 what we would call other recommendations, which are just recommendations for your consideration in relation to delivery of the Towns Fund and delivery of the capital programme, which are included in the report. And then we've also looked at any recommendations that we made in the prior year and have been able to clear those as having been actioned. So that's all I really wanted to go through on that, but I'm happy to take questions.
Thank you. Any questions from councillors? So no? Okay, great. Excellent, thank you again for that. So last item on this part of the agenda is the date of the next meeting, so 4th of February 2026. We've got a few items to consider in private, so I therefore move that in accordance with section 184 of the Local Government Act 1972, press and public be excluded from the remainder of the meeting as it's likely in view of the nature of the business to be transacted or the nature of the proceedings there be disclosed exempt information as defined in paragraphs of part 1 of Schedule 12A of the Act, indicated in brackets before each item number on the agenda. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Krupski, all those in favour? Thank you very much. I'm going to wait for Emily to stop.